Let's go. Thinking about the book as a whole, hopefully we can extract the central principles of the text from our Australopithecus afarensis ancestors to inject them into the myriad of miniaturized crystalline marbles that can be placed inside the moose blood drenched paper mache Dostoevsky shaped handbag to successfully smuggle these dangerous ideas across political borders with boundaries unknown. They will all fall one day as the cactuses flower out of their cracked open skulls. The Black Hand substitute, they imagined, but instead it was the Gregarian piss yellow hand monument deployed in the depths of an imaginary prefabricated 300-foot future qualia daydreamed by the dying candidates of a rotting new hypergeography now known as both a map as well as a method. There were days now that sounded like this, but they all felt so familiar and fleeting. Thus, we opened the door and crawled out of the womb directly into a new form of modern falling, burning birth munitions that looked like bombs and felt like bombs as they landed upon the upper crests of the buildings in every other country we could have ever imagined other than our own. Yet it was now the end. So how much could we really, truly learn to care now, anyway? It was all behind us. The entire world as we once knew it had now been folded up into our pockets and put away. Many people scoffed when they were first told that they would ultimately, most presumably, end up in cages, no different from when NASA first lost a spacecraft in the outer reaches of the cosmos due to a math mistake by purely calculating the metric conversions of a matter density hypnosis relative to the overall matter density relationship of the multiverse. The number of alternate realities on our to do list is a staggering, Bill, he said through a set of mossed over broken rotten moulders. Louder now. Oh, Bill. Oh, Bill. The tooth moose gotta clean the old threaded grips of the sagged-eyed tooth moose, the saggy-ass blistered old Baltimore moose goon, Hearst dessert extra furnished nurse alert, teen airport alert, bags of blisters burst, built missing persons report, I am a vintage claustrophobia losing socks in bags, playing peekaboo in half floors in the middle of nowhere. The thing now taking shape will be a pure flood of three-man madmen, mental acrobatics, or a slyly coded elk blood drenched eschatological foot race written in the diaries of diabetic post democratic fox lizard skin and mind melds within molds of minds, microscopic telepathic missions, and half-remembered astral projections happening in public, unseen by the people, all these people, or what used to be people. We can't even remember what people even were anymore. We are 1,000 years in the future now, all the while moving in just under the speed of light. The speed of light measured in a vacuum is 1,86282 miles per second. 1 Li equals 9.5 times 10 to the power of 12 kilometers equals 63240 AU. So we are now talking about something in the range of 181,333 miles per second, as with elegance. Headed straight for Nibiru, we watch the buzzards nibble at the sheer bravado of anti-gravity cannons, and this is in smaller writing. Togetherness is the antidote for the hysteria of everyday life. The book, now looking back, came out 1,000 years ago. There was a different civilization then, but at least they wouldn't let it all end the way we thought it would end. Thus begins an empire in all its darkened resolve, a sort of cognitive cactus grossenai, but for feet that we have walked 1,000 miles minimum. That was the collected rapacy of a total interior central nervous system acting a dual processor, both the input and output of a vast world building generator occupying the pristine intermembrane space. The 200,000 year old revelations of a fungal intelligence gift wrapped in mimetic Sicilian tuxedos invented by a roving stoned ape hypnosis, launching our now deeply enlightened psycho-spiritual day-to-day cognitive evolution with morning alarms set for 6:23 a.m. of setting our innate built-in drives, initiating endlessly insatiable consumption patterns in yoga pants near bankers with vampiric bloodlusts hidden in small unreadable trust fund contract print of the home interest subprime mortgage crisis rates higher than the total gross domestic product of most non-residents or dual status aliens, the stuff of General Form 1098 anxieties and their accompanying olfactory hallucinations weighted against institutional, transactional, financial, global pyramid schemes, the big-breasted economic centerfolds of neoliberal global imperial control we now eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There is a mountain of impossibly coded information designed to be traversed concerning the psychotropic history of the world and its obscured requests for some type of meaning. For this, they sold hooked on phonetics kits as makeshift intellectual jungle gyms to mold new hybridized half goat, half hillbillies for the military industrial complex to have as swag bag giveaways made from the round up bones of Louisiana manufacturing workers in the 1986 Oscars when Don Amick, who won for Best Supporting Actor in Cocoon, spilled the beans to the press that HAARP, HAARP, known as the High Frequency Active Oral Research Program, was controlling the minds of American auto workers in Michigan ever since the Bay of Pigs by harnessing iodized cloud energies correlating geographically with the open mouths of well-trained kindergartens with Montessori free of open elections type the soon to be middle aged suburban assassins, the countdown to vacation middle America horror fiends, affordable healthcare, debt, climate change, racism, sexism, economic inequity, terrorism, ductless whale heaters, furnace rooms, a two-car garage, a white picket fence, and endless consumable electricity on demand. And don't forget their driveling bowls of Sunday morning Fruit Loops, the ones who changed the channels on the early morning type of eagerly onlooking grandmas. One day, they all soon be replacement grandmas. We better watch out. This just might entertain people to death, they once said. It maintains the brute physiology of a rear view geomale entropy comprised of the multiple collapsing tympanic cavities of an adolescent bloodlust that only the panoptic shapeshifters of modern advertising may refer to as what they call upward social mobility. We savor the purity of these language games, the humans lost in the distant abundance, otherwise known as the garden variety universe, the superfluous taxonomy of hypo-modern decelerating junkyard cosmology. It was Monday, September 28th, when we first met Rick Harsh, and America was in crisis. The intellectual architecture of that debate evaluated as a constructive contribution to modern methodological critical discourse was as firm as the base of a sandcastle. I yielded out from my desk, maybe over to the direction of Jeff, or maybe towards the general direction of no one in particular. 9:37 a.m. Hi, Rick. I hope that this finds you well. This is Philip Friedenberg and Jeff Walton. We just emailed you as well as sent cash payment of €18 for the Medieval Destiny of Ada Vegas. Our furiously reading eyes soon will have many adventures ahead with your book. Thank you. I might buy the book and have it being sent in the post while I read. The funny thing is, we were just saying to one another, by now, in this communicative experience, Rick must be thinking, well, I found my people. We were certainly thinking this of you. When one dares to create profound original art, he or she must not be surprised when he or she finds a daringly profound creative audience. The current psychotemporal mind space of America is a vapid driveling soup kit of burrowed bog annexed from a wasteland, an outpost orbiting pure psychocultural insanity. Thus the creative push for transcendent cognitive reform is imperative. Concurrently, sobriety may not fully play a role in this outmost regions of the magnum grandiosity of the absurdist theatre that is now in Act 3 of the great American psychodrama. The first transmission, otherwise referred to in the logs of the records of the events as the transmissions from the great beyond, manifest as an audio recording at 6:50 a.m. on Monday. This was referred as transmission from the great beyond number 1. 69 Buffalo Road. No, wait. Buffalo, New York, 29 Penhurst Road? I think Tom Waits has taken over. It's a Tom Waits song. Thank you very much. I just awake and it's afternoon, but I have something to do but go to the post office today, so I will be sending it today. I mailed the Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas to you both, and it should arrive at your facility just in time for you, as you will both very much need it for what is to come for you, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you. There will be 51 degrees of initiation. Now, that waiting began, yet more profoundly now began the mystery, the unshakably vast mystery of what has all this means, and what all this will mean in the future moving forward. And all we had to do now was sit back idly and wait for the book to arrive. But what would the book be? What would we be? And how would the world, better yet, and how would America be? And how might it be possibly changed forever by what we have now just ever so gently set in motion? An equantly balanced, exotic, psychological zoetrope whose momentum would now permissibly bind together the lives of the author, Rick Harsh, living in Slovenia, a designer, Jeff Walton, living in Buffalo, and a production manager, Philip Friedenberg, living in Buffalo, who sit at opposite desks in adjacent rooms, looking quizzically stunned, alive, breathing, and ready to create. So begin an upcoming ambitionally anomalous higher dimensional pyramidical word structure. Harsh, Friedenberg, Walton. 111111112222333. Thus arrives the new pyramidical power structure. Jeff and I now worked together on and off, veering our courses in and out of mutual frequency over the course of 20 years. Today's workday presented itself undifferentiated categorically as being likened to Mondays. Like many others, we have shared until the bold alignment of two most unusual events occurred: the arrival of the transmission from the great beyond number 1, and the arrival of the mail of our first cryptic pamphlet from the CCB, the Cult of the Cactus Boots, to our facility. A distinct perplexity relative to these two moments in time was measured by their synchronicity in the afternoon. We first received the pamphlet by mail from the CCB was the same morning that Rick sent us what would be the first message we would receive of hundreds or thousands, which in and of themselves would become a sequence that would change our lives forever. This His transmissions in total created a certain type of proper self-containing sequence known as a PSCS, and this is in smaller print. Every imaginable idea is available, possible, but what obstructs the potential realization of every imaginable idea all at once is the proper arrangement of the words that represent them, the poverty of the passages in terms of information. A proper PSCS is an infinite sequence that properly contains itself, repeating infinitely, and the regular position array of this infinitely repeating sequence was Rick himself calculated into a series of word frequencies that would become for us a model of a unique sacred literary geometry to decode and slowly unravel as we wrote our way deeper and deeper into the great beyond. These messages would, in the long run, begin our 400,000 square foot building and end on the other side of the universe. Now, I would be cleaner, as if gifted through the factual endowment of the transparent narrator, very far from unreliable, about exactly how the pamphlet arrived to Jeff and me at our facility. The CCB pamphlet did not exactly arrive by mail. That was just a habitual reference of common habit, or an indexed categorical methodology of common behaviors belonging only to an era long now behind us, as the post office has been discontinued by the American Department of Defense for nearly the past 100 years. These days, any private corporation not falling under the governance of the Illuminati Public Defense and Security Guard had to employ well-armed couriers to deliver any written messages, as the American government had recently outlawed not only the written word and the creation of new information text, but it has also begun to collect, possess, and destroy any written texts of the past 100 years in a campaign called the Total Information Control Initiative. In addition to that, it has become very dangerous to travel in all metropolitan American cities due to the violence which has erupted across America in what the history books will call the totalitarian American Illuminati two-party human conflict riots that were the roots of the now raging new American Civil War. Due to the escalation of violent clashes and the half of our city's infrastructure being in flames, Jeff and I had been sleeping at work for the past 8 or 9 nights. I am not exactly certain how many, as it has become an indecipherable blur of precarious, hazy half recollections due to the intrinsic personal safety risks attached to free inner city travel. So to say that it has come to a surprise to the two of us when we were paged over our facility-wide speaker system to our reception area mid-afternoon, exact time unknown, to see a courier who had arrived to personally deliver a letter to us under the current circumstances of pure social duress would be an understatement. It was shaping up to be an unusual Monday indeed. We arrived both startled yet prepared for anything, racing in our minds through perfunctorily overly obtuse sets of unorganized emotional categories arriving in our reception area, now face to find a very small and mysterious man who had short, fossil encased legs, who we somehow instinctively knew at first sight would thrive with fossilized legs, but we knew also that he would need shoes to walk. The man was an official Cult of the Cactus Boost armed courier who had a letter to deliver to Philip Friedenberg and Jeff Walton, and was most identifiably US. He had introduced himself as Slimy Barefoot. At the first glance, Slimy Barefoot looked like a textbook hamadryated wood nymph. One with tree, known as the spirit of an oak tree, anthropomorphized before our very eyes, directly out of the pages of Greco-human folklore. He was small, yet lurking at height of somewhere near 46 inches high. Slimy Barefoot said in a mellifluous, glowing voice, "Yield to the duo. I have come to you on behalf of the direct interests of the leadership of the Cult of the Cactus Boots. They have prepared this pamphlet for you. You have been individually chosen, as you are both particle and wave simultaneously. We create a new gold standard for the new symbolic nature of language. Soon you will join us. I will visit you again in 1 day's time in a strange and mysterious way, as I am Slimy Barefoot, who has fossil encased legs, who will thrive with fossilized legs." Slimy Barefoot handed us a striking parcel, then turned and vanished down the stairs, all 19 of them, and was out the door into the parking lot and disappeared. We rushed, solicitously untrammeled, still intellectually disorientated from what just had happened, back to our office to investigate this precarious document. What could it mean? How had we been selected, identified, and found to be the recipients of such an unusual item? The pamphlet arrived in an emerald green envelope addressed to the two of us, woven only from what could be described as an eye-catching, that's a big word, oxychronosis papyri, dressed in bold facsimile symbols taken from the ancient code of Hammurabi, cruelly hand-taped to the cardboard interior of a Johann 1934 Mercedes-Benz 500k Special Sports Roadster 1/25 SS 1967 issue model car kit box. These particular connections in approaches to envelope manufacturing will serve to be particularly important later as our mystery unfolds. I can't read that. The pamphlet read, "All hail Calcutta. Yield to the duo. Let the great unraveling of the multi-paradigm begin, as it has always been beginning, both for today as well as for tomorrow, as inscribed in the minds of people who wear the entire history of the Akashic records over their eyes. like mescaline-soaked bandanas, mescaline-soaked bandanas to obscure the pure and brilliant blur of American squalor as it confirms to the horror of these inescapable and newly manufactured, hollowed out cardboard horizons of old cactus boots under a bus magic clouds that rain down on the graves of old finger foods. You have been chosen. We will contact you again. Study these words as the next time you hear them spoken to you, you will be in the center of the terrace Seract in the vanished Wisconsin. The words will serve as your guide to Rick Harsh as you move through the manifold destiny of Eddie Vegas to enter the chapel of the Brotherhood of Phalanx Grello Bounty, yield to the duo. All hail Catalum. I should likely pause to take an important moment to roll things back from here. Before moving forward more deeply into the center of this mystery, to explain the peculiar nature of how Jeff and I first begun receiving our agnamic audio transmissions from Rick Harsh in the first place, in our office for nearly 2 years now, we have had an old Zenith 7G605 transoceanic Clipper 1942 deluxe portable suitcase radio, popularized in its use by traveling GIs during World War II. The facility we work in is over 100 years old, and we discovered the Zenith late one evening while cleaning out a miraculously difficult to access elevated crawl space, obtuse, physically obliterated above our screen printing department. This space, you must understand, was like an antiquated womb-like rotten lumberyard that we never knew existed until one day a warm soft light oozed out of the, in three brackets, the crumbling ceiling above the print press, calling our attention to the possibility of an unexplored room, an esoteric, architecturally abstract antechamber hiding quietly above, potentially landing in alignment on the latitudinal and longitudinal cross points along the sacred ley lines which bind astrological constellations with sacred sites, vortexes, portals, as well as terrestrial and extraterrestrial eclomagnetic energy fields that create a total integrated grand quantum consciousness, which in reflection must have been the room beckoning us to the discovery not only of it, but of what it was protecting for almost 70 years of passing time. The Zenith had long ago had its 115 AC/DC plug torn from its body, eliminating any power supply to support its proper effective functioning. Additionally, its backup number Z984A/B battery port had long been corroded through sheer neglect, well beyond serviceable use. After removing it from its immaculately dust-shrouded nook, frozen in time, in the southwest end of the long-forgotten wooden crawl space above our screen printing department on the second floor, it became a mildly pleasant to observe bric-a-brac style piece of office desk dressing ephemera. It was just this odd, long out of turn my music up a little bit. Oh, might be too loud. I want you to be able to hear me. Continue. I don't think anyone would be watching this anyway. It's been 35 minutes. It was just this odd, long out of effectively functioning zenith, now converted to a strict, mildly pleasant to observe bric-a-brac style piece of office desk dressing ephemera. That previously moving along as usual Monday morning at the office, which quickly converted into a full otherworldly type of weirdness Monday morning, when it squelched to life with a blaring 15-second high-pitched atonal frequency until dropping out to clearly broadcast the transmission of author Rick Harsh's gravelly voice, talking directly to us, that will become our central link to Rick's message and soon to be instructions from here on out. These voice transmissions would then come alive often, each time introduced with the same reality shattering, blaring, high-pitched 15-second atonal frequencies prior to Rick speaking. As soon as these transmissions would startlingly manifest, Jeff and I would be left utterly scrambling to write these transmissions down on anything we could find around our desks, including scraps of paper, post-it notes, napkins, documents, production spreadsheets, profit loss reports, job production travelers, petty cash receipts, design proofs, material order forms, or whatever was quickly available toward the placement of an easy to access notebook left next to the zenith for just these abrupt moments of discovery. We would then spend hours, days and nights decoding Rick's audio messages, which were cryptic, poetic, physiological, as well as hypnotizing. By the time the daily decoding and anticipation of receiving the next message of puzzle piece that sent us spiraling into the reflection, research, curiosity and speculation began unraveling. We had not yet known what was conclusively a grandiose, ghost-like mystery for which we were at this early stage so far from constructing a full understanding of, which would later evolve into what would become a mind-bending adventure across the universe, occurring under the umbrella of an essentially decaying America. These records, in all their stunning variety and total, made up what we referred to as the logs of the records of events, or the transmissions from the great beyond. They were transcribed and collected in the hundreds to thousands, stored in a medium-sized novelty pirate chest we kept on the desk with the radio. With a profoundly curious timing at that moment, the Zenith 7G605 erupted into its blaring, cause for our attention, as it indicated a newly arriving message from Rick. We set down the CCB pamphlet and quickly acquire a pad and a pen. Transmission from the Great Beyond, number 14. You might want to look up my essay on the canalization of membrane and mem/brain and see if you might want to use that for an outline or sort of map. Under the perturbations of American President Ralph, the great danger, the rise of an increased phenotypic variance will be required for human survival in the current America. You must create a new creative thinking, ascended cognitive, evolutionary phenotypic landscape. Creating access will require you to write a book, a new sensitivity to mutation and adaptation within an infinitely express wall of language. Erect your mountain of pages and crawl through them until you shed the banality of human flesh. The book shall be written as an increased network complexity, thus creating new gene regulation networks, birthing 400 generations of new minds born and living within the new books. Infinite consciousness imbued in an army of paper people, linguistically erupting zygotes, paper ectoderm, symbologically divided paper endoderm, symbolically divided paper mesoderm, symbolically divided people transformed academically into words, the author and the illustrator wandering through the word labyrinths. The central path of the book nestled within infinitely iterated Mandelbrot sets sprawling below the surface of America. You must enter the mantra in order to enter into and pass through the word fever and move through the book to complete the elevated cycle. Person, word, unified field. You are the objects of consciousness. I stumbled to pour out to Jeff. What in the world does that even mean? And does that somehow have something to do with what just happened with Slimy Barefoot and the cult of the cactus boots? I reckon the cult connected in some way. Did he say canalization or colonization or colonization of the membrane? This may be an important part of the puzzle. It is, as it represents a biological materialist perspective in which the reductionalists struggle to understand and explain how the spirit may possess the membrane to create life. But he said the canalization of membrane. Does that mean that canals are dug metaphorically into genetic analogies to support the foundations of the Cartesian ghost in the machine? Or is it transformative Darwinian crawling from the evolutionary muck of the canals to develop new adaptive membranes to somehow live more successfully in this new America? Shit, I don't know. Did he say colonization or colonization? We obviously need to find this essay of Rick's, Jeff curiously replied. Enter. A pool of cosmic Word portal number 1. Move freely through this book from here, moving from one portal to the next. The content table of the Ascetian microcardial genetic code of the book, replacing the amino acids with pages of the book in which the language of the cult in ones and zeros is removed from its code. The perplexing undocumented inquiry into the word fever ciphertext is possibly hidden in the cryptos sculpture at CI headquarters in Langley, Virginia. The cryptos transcript. Static interruption. Static interruption. Transmission from the great beyond, number 137. There are two very dangerous, very large elephants with two twin men operating their every move, running loose in your book, thundering along the sentences by sentence architecture of words within America and the cult of the cactus boots. If this is, in fact, the title I sense that you have now chosen, I do not yet know the title of your book, but the variations of the orgone fiction generator have intensified from a cursory review of the cosmologically Anunnaki data reports from the 5 to 8 Hertz galleries of the unified field, and it is a rapid construction and development, or what they have called the purgatory of erogenous zone, the manifest entirely of our dependence upon caretakers, where our endless cycle of gratifying repeat stimulations is born and will be conquered by our subpositions into the screens. The screens sink 6. The population's lament in integrity versus despair. The psychological conflict of regret. They, the elephants, were there before your book, and they will be there after your book. The transcendental access points of the unified field have been opened, unfolded in fourth dimension tesseract, a 4-point Echoladian ascending, gathering millions of Americans reading again, all combined, a convergence of multiple origins arriving all at once, an irregular pilotype contained within the minds of the readers. This is all just beginning. It feels that the symbolism of the cult is being manifested on the curbside signs of America. The elephants are being ridden by the two most dangerous second-degree Aikido black belts. They are twins, two historically action film content, Asemic Algael language blastocysts. The twins maintain the fourfold classification of the Jacobian fourfold division of the sign, the same man divided in two, in an exotic symbolic mysticis. The book opens in the hands of the reader. Paper natural progenitor cells divide and differentiate into paper neurons and glia. A verbal nervous system takes shape in its many pages. Hyperpoetic cranial neural feeds, the aggregate state sign system mathematics, and the formalized codes of an unorthodox gibberish metaphysics. The minds of the readers become the interactive endogenous and environmental stimuli required to develop the book, while morphogenic want slash PCP, the neural tube closure, creates plot points along the secondary and primary neuralization post fertilization, post purchase of the book. The 50 minutes. I'm getting tired, you can probably tell. Alright, 50 minutes is good. I'll see you next time for part 3. This is part 2. There was part 1 before. It seems to go in a numerical order.